everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to day -10. Last days is before the single digits. So today I'm going to talk about the last day that Chrissy and I spent together as a couple. Well, technically speaking. You know, in my mind, and possibly even in her mind by now, it had obviously long been over, but for the sake of... I can't find a really good word for it. For the sake of not losing our minds, I guess, you know, we stayed together. I think I said this yesterday. But, you know, it's kind of fitting that, to be honest, the last day we spent together as a couple was at a mall. Because, you know, if you remember when I first asked her out in the beginning of near the beginning of these vlogs, you know, the first time that I asked Chrissy out, you know, was the day that we went to the mall. So it was definitely fitting that, unfortunately, our last day as a couple was also at the mall. You know, just to show you a little bit of how far apart we drifted by that point. We didn't even drive together. We actually just met up at the mall. Because, you know, I think both of us already pretty much knew. We were just afraid to say anything. You know, it's definitely... It was definitely showing by that point, if it hadn't already, that, you know, we weren't even... It wasn't even, you know, us as a couple. It was just us as friends, really. By then, we were just out of it. We weren't really being anything like we used to, you know. We were not even as close as we were at the beginning of knowing each other, really. And it's weird because, you know, I knew that back then, but, you know, I couldn't say anything. I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to stay. I wanted her to stay. And I'm pretty sure she wanted me to stay because I don't think either of us really wanted to let each other go, even though we already knew. You know, we did what we normally did. We went around, you know, shopping for stuff. We went, it wasn't even, you know, to be honest, it wasn't even fun just hanging out anymore. That's how far we'd fallen. You know, at our high point, I couldn't stay away from her, you know. My high point with Chrissy, I didn't want to spend a day without at least seeing her. And, you know, by this point, towards the end of February, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, in hindsight, I basically couldn't stand her. I didn't want to say it, of course, but I kind of knew. And, you know, it kind of sucks because, you know, it wasn't even until we finally sat down to eat a snack where, you know, Chrissy finally said the thing that neither of us were willing to say. You know, it's just, three simple words that meant so much, that really, I don't want to say it meant so much, it doesn't make sense, but that were so scary for us to say. And it's, she just went out and said it. This isn't working. And I could tell that it scared her to say it, because she was, I could hear it in her voice. I knew that she was afraid to say it, that she started through it, that she didn't want to say it, but she knew it. And all I said was, I know. And I think what really did hurt was, because like I just said, both of us knew that it wasn't even just the whole us being together as a couple. It was, just us together at all wasn't working anymore. There had been way too many secrets involved. There was way too much hurting on both sides, really. The only thing that was missing was really physical confrontation, which thank God it didn't resort to. It really sucked. I don't think either of us wanted to lose each other, like I just said earlier. I mean, especially, I guess I can't really vouch 100% for Chrissy, but, for me, I didn't want to lose her because of the same reason that I didn't want to lose her when she went to Georgia for the holidays. It was the whole, this was someone that walked into my life in the previous year that I'd gotten closer to anyone ever before, I guess, aside from my family. And for me to just up and lose her, like, in an instant, I can't snap with my left, it sucked. And I didn't want any part of that, even though I knew that, that it was inevitable. Sorry. I still wanted to hold out that glimmer of hope that, that I just wanted to believe in the fairy tale still. Like I said, that was the last day we were really together as a couple, because, we said things, we knew that we couldn't at least stay a couple anymore, definitely. That the bridges had already been burned by that point, that there was no turning back. Thank God we were in a public place, because I think that if we weren't, we would have definitely fought again. And that's something I didn't want to do. In all these fights and all these arguments that Chrissy and I had gotten into, it wasn't very, I kept it as PG as I could. I kept it as nice as I could, because words were said, and not very nice words, between both of us. And I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but before I finish, I need to say something. Throughout this story, I've tried to say the nicest things I can about Chrissy. I know that it doesn't sound like it's been that bad. But, the fact of the matter is, throughout this whole story, if you don't know me, or even if you do, and, you form an opinion on me, like you don't like me, or you do, or whatever, I don't really mind that. If you don't like me, then, you know, that's your opinion. I don't like it. That sucks, but there's nothing I can do but try to change that. When it comes to other people, and especially Chrissy, even though she is my ex, there's just that piece of me that never wants to say anything that bad about someone else, because especially when when it's just like me talking about someone to someone else. If I'm talking about myself to someone else and they think that I am obnoxious or arrogant or anything, that's fine, I don't care. But I don't want anyone to ever judge someone else because of what I say about someone. And definitely, I never want to paint Chrissy in a negative light. I don't want to help form an opinion from, in someone else's mind about her that might not be true. We've said a lot of things to each other, both nice and bad, in our time together, but I mean, that's what plenty of other people do, in plenty of other relationships, good or bad. And I don't think that our relationship was any different in hindsight than anybody else's, but a lot of this will make more sense in the coming vlogs, why I don't like saying anything bad about Chrissy, even though we're not together anymore, even though, we obviously don't speak anymore. But, that is probably all I'm going to get to today. We're definitely hitting the end. It's not even a week until I finish this part, at least, until we're done with me, until Chrissy and me are done completely. These are the last few vlogs, so it's going to get harder and harder for me to talk, because it's definite, because it's not something I want to say, but definitely on the flip side, at least in my mind, it'll technically get a little more interesting and a little more understandable once you understand the whole story. But yeah, thanks for watching again. If you've been watching the entire time, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And even if you've only watched more recently, even if today is your first video for whatever reason, I still thank you. It definitely means a lot to me. And until tomorrow, see ya.